You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. It's season 3. It's episode 11. Rest easy, Otis. Don't forget to listen, download, review, most importantly, subscribe to the podcast. Follow us on all the socials, Twitter, Instagram. Of course, we're on Facebook, and you can email Crawly and I at flythew670@gmail.com. Crawly, hope the weekend's gone well so far. A little bit of it left, and we're recording this on a Sunday, 1 week ahead of the Super Bowl. I know one of your favorite events of the year.
Hey, you know what? I actually like, you're going to laugh. I like prop bets.
Okay.
So me and my friends, we all get together and we do we have a whole sheet and it's nothing of prop bets. What color is the Gatorade? What, how long is the
all
anthem?
the fun stuff, right? Is
right.
Kelsey going to get down on one knee after the game and propose to Taylor Swift?
Yeah, that's the stuff. But I that stuff I can get into. But I will tell you what does get me excited. How about this? My spring training tickets on my @bat app. So
yeah, I saw that on social media.
Yeah, anyone going to be out the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th? I'll be out in beautiful Mesa, Arizona at the Club 400 tent. Stop on by. We're going to have some fun.
So that's in February or March?
That's in March. So okay. That's going to be, yeah. And I got the tickets, like I said, to the breakout game, Cubs versus Sox. So that's going to be great.
Nice. That will be fun. I saw that, Marquee basically will show all of those games. We'll have a handful of them on 670 The Score as well.
Yeah, it's exciting. Not exciting. Bellinger Watch 2024 continues. We still have no movement. Friend of the pod and Odyssey insider Bob Nightingale mentioned the Phillies as a possible landing spot for Belly, and frequent guest of the Mully and Haw Show, John Heyman, mentioned that the Angels could be a team interested in Bellinger services as well. So nothing yet. We'll keep watching, but the Cubs did not add Bellinger or any other player since the last podcast, but Dustin, they did make a roster move. With the addition of reliever Hector Neris to the 40-man roster, we were wondering what the corresponding move was going to be, and we found out this week. The other thing to keep in mind is that, though, about this whole situation, Dustin, is that the Cubs are going to have to make room on their 40-man roster for Neris, and there hasn't been a corresponding move yet. Now, the Cubs could, just decide to DFA a pitcher, replace one pitcher with another to make room for Neris. I'm just kind of looking at the 40-man roster here, and
you got to guess.
I wonder if Michael Rucker or Keegan Thompson. Well, there it was, Michael Rucker or Keegan Thompson. Michael Rucker was DFA'd. So we'll see if another team wants to pick him up. If not, the Cubs then can re-sign him. So we'll see what happened. But speaking of picked up, Dustin, the Diamondbacks signed lefty Brandon Hughes to a minor league deal. If you remember, Hughes was a big part of the pen in 2022. He was supposed to be a big part of the pen in 23 as the lefty, but it was just an injury-plagued season. He just couldn't get healthy. He had to have left knee surgery, and the Cubs non-tendered him in November.
Speaking of the Diamondbacks, right? They picked up another former Cub, right? Their new DH.
Yeah,
right?
they keep moving, and I think the Diamondbacks have really had altogether a pretty solid offseason. But Dustin, the major move in the NL Central, the one that's kind of shaking everything, the Brewers traded ace Corbin Burnes to the Baltimore Orioles for shortstop Joey Ortiz and starting pitcher D.L. Hall. It was well known the Brewers were not going to extend Burnes during his final season before hitting free agency. This is obviously going to make the Brewers weaker. And Dustin, think about this. The Orioles still kept their 5 best prospects and got probably one of the best pitchers in baseball.
Right. Pretty wild. I'm surprised they make this move now and not at the trade deadline. I wonder what the thinking was there.
I mean, I think it just comes down. The only thing I could think of potentially
didn't want to pay the salary for the first 5 months or whatever. I mean,
I think it's more, you tend to get less if you're going to have the guy for less time. So since this is walk year, you're now getting
you got him now
the
whole season worth him. Okay, that makes sense. Yep, that's a good answer.
But Dustin, take a look at this. Take a look at the Brewers pitching. Okay, if you remember last year, they had Brandon Woodruff, they had Corbin Burnes, and Freddie Peralta as this nasty 3-headed monster. I mean, you know, now they're down to Freddie Peralta, Wade Miley. We remember that experience. Mm-hmm. Joe Ross, Colin Rea, and Robert Gasser. Does that strike fear in you anymore?
No, I mean, that's not even that's like a bullpen, let alone a starting rotation, right? I mean, if Freddie Peralta's your opening day, he's your ace. Freddie Peralta's your ace.
He's a good pitcher. I would put him at a number 2, but you got nothing behind him.
Right. That's what I mean. That's what I mean. I mean, it takes a massive drop after that. I mean, Freddie Peralta's a pretty good 2, a really good 3, but I don't know how Freddie Peralta is going to be hey, listen, that's good news. Guess who else they don't have? They don't have Craig Counsell to try to make chicken salad out of you-know-what. So we'll
right. But, it was a question of what the Brewers were going to do. And now you got to ask yourself, okay, what else do the Brewers have that other teams would want? I mean, are you going for the full rebuild here? Because, Devin Williams has only got 1 more year left. So, you're talking about one of the best relievers in baseball. Willy Adames is a guy that has value. I mean, are they going to just completely strip this down this season? I don't know, but you got to ask yourself these questions.
Looks that way, right? It looks the way the compass is pointing. It looks like a absolute full rebuild in the city north of the Cheddar Curtain.
And so, we've talked about this before. I'm still of the belief that the Reds are the team to beat in the Central. Cubs would be 2. I don't know about Brewers 3 anymore, but the Pirates and the Cardinals would, I think that there's a big drop off after the Reds and the Cubs. But Dustin, if we look at our tiered list, we scratch off another name. So there is Corbin Burnes officially scratched off. So what's left?
There you go.
You got Blake Snell was our tier 1. Cease and Alonso. I kept hearing Cease's name. It seems like it keeps going, but I think I heard Bruce Levine say it's probably more likely that being a trade deadline deal.
Right. They're going to hold on to him. Yep.
And then the tier 2 free agents, Jordan Montgomery's still out there, Matt Chapman and Cody Bellinger. Alec Bregman, we'll see. Maybe, I mean, they might try to, keep him for the whole year and just let him walk. Solaire's still out there. And then Bieber, Kim, and Paredes as trade targets. I heard a little bit about Shane Bieber, but nothing else. So, I mean, there's still players out there. The offseason's not over, but let's get moving here.
That's still a big list, right? I mean, there's some talent on that list, and you'd like to see 1 or 2 of those guys end up over at Clark and Addison, no doubt.
In other news, former Cub president of baseball ops, Theo Epstein, left his job with MLB to return home to Boston to become a part owner of Fenway Sports Group and a senior advisor. According to Sportico, which broke the story, at Fenway, Epstein will work on sport initiatives across the business holdings, which include Liverpool FC, the Pittsburgh Penguins, RFK Racing, TGL's Boston Common Golf, and a recently acquired stake in the PGA Tour. Dustin, Theo was working for MLB and was behind a lot of the rule changes that you and I both like to improve the game.
Yep.
Pitch clock, banning the shift, increasing the bases. I really enjoyed that. And to me, I thought that Theo was ready to go to be the next commissioner of baseball. So
right now, here's what I found interesting about that, Crawly. I thought the same thing. I thought that's what he was aspiring to. That's something that he dreamed about, saw in his future. But the former Marlins president, who is very active on social media, he tweeted out that the reason he thought that this went down is because he saw that his path to the commissionership was not happening. And so that's why he decided to go this route, because that was David Sampson that had tweeted that out, and that the path was not going to be as easy as he had hoped. Another thing I'd love to get your opinion on, I don't know if you caught it. You can't catch every minute of the Mully and Haw show, but when this news broke, I think we were on the air on Thursday, if I remember right, which day it was. I believe it was Thursday. Or was it Friday? Do you remember, Crawly? Was this Thursday or Friday when this news went down?
I thought it was Friday, but I might be off.
It doesn't matter. Either way, David Haw said they're going to build a statue at Wrigley Field for Theo Epstein. And I said, no shot. There's no way they're going to build a statue of Theo Epstein. Now, I could see a big, grand sculpture about that team, obviously, but I don't even think in the big, grand sculpture it includes Theo Epstein. Do you think Theo Epstein will get a statue at Wrigley Field?
I think there's no way he's going to get a statue. Right. I mean, they're already running out of room for guys that they need. And it's interesting. When I was at Cubs convention, And we were talking to Lou Sella. He's been on the podcast before. He's a guy that sculpted everything.
Yeah.
Someone asked him, who do you think the Cubs, should have? And a name is Gabby Hartnett, one of the greatest Cubs of all time that people forget because it's pre-World War II, but he's one of the greatest Cubs that ever existed. He doesn't have a statue. So, I mean, does Cubs history begin in the 1960s, 1969 team? I don't know. You take a look at Gabby Hartnett, and then you also take a look at Buck O'Neil and his contributions to the game.
Right.
Andre Dawson, Greg Maddux, those are all names that kind of come up. Would you say Anthony Rizzo out of that 2016 team, the guy that kind of stuck through everything, was through the kind of really
I could see him with his, the ball in his hand and the mitt in the other hand and his hands raised above his head as being the statue potentially to commemorate that. Right.
But I think that you're right in the fact that I don't think I think it's going to be some grand sculpture of everybody somewhere located in Wrigley if they can find a place for it. Where, I don't know, but I think the Bears have one like that, correct? At Soldier Field, where it's just like a giant collage type thing. And I can see it more being that because there were so many good players on that.
Or maybe it ends up inside of Wrigley Field, right? Throughout the concourse or something, or right when you walk in against the wall, the back wall, when you first walk in, something like that. Who knows?
I think so, but it'll be cool. But
it's not going to be a standalone statue of Theo Epstein.
No, absolutely not. And according to Sportico, Epstein leaves his role as a special consultant to MLB, but he will continue to informally serve the league's competition and on-field committee. So he's still involved. I liked what he was doing. And I don't know what David Sampson knows versus doesn't know. I just know that, obviously we have a commissioner right now. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but Theo's still a younger guy, and that, he can work his way up, I guess, but ownership is, a lot of money, and it's going to be interesting because it's not just baseball, it's hockey, it's soccer, it's racing. So,
I think any people joked around, like when the Bears were looking for a new, bring Theo back to the Bears, right? Anything Theo puts his hands on, there's a good chance it's going to get better. There's no doubting that. There's no doubting that Theo Epstein one day will be in the Baseball Hall of Fame. There is no doubt about that either. So, listen, good for Theo. I think if anything, this is bad for baseball as a whole. It sounds like it's a really great day to be Theo Epstein. I don't think there's really a bad day to be a Theo Epstein.
No, he's a great guy, and wishing him all the best. But like I said, we just love what he was doing. So hopefully he can still in some way continue to contribute. But former Cubs player and current marquee analyst Joe Girardi will be joining the Yes Network, but he will continue to work as an analyst for Marquee as well. So you know how they shift everybody around. So
yeah, they do. I still haven't decided, Crawly, and I don't think we've talked about it. Maybe we have indirectly, but maybe we get into this bigger and deeper later. But I don't know that I like the constant revolving door, the constant revolving analysts. I don't mind for like a big series if you bring in a guy that it makes sense, like for the pregame, postgame type stuff. But constantly, I mean, you turn Marquee on, you never know who you're going to get, right? You just never know. And then I'm definitely not a fan. Well, here's what I wonder. So Girardi, if he is cutting back, or they cut him back, something, right? He's not going to be around as much as he was. I was never a fan of the 3-man Boog, Girardi, and Deshays. I didn't like that. I didn't like it. Too busy, too hard. If Jim Deshays is your guy, then let Jim Deshays be your guy. What is it? Why all of a sudden does everybody that works in baseball specifically, and it's a long season, but all of a sudden everybody needs a day off. Everybody's taking I've never seen it before. All of a sudden it's like everybody's taking days off nonstop in baseball.
Well, I'm not a fan of 3-man booths. As you said, in baseball, it just gets too crowded, too many people. I'm just a fan of the good old-fashioned 2-man booth. I don't think that Girardi's cutting his time any. It's just he'll have something to do when he's not, when he's off. Because, like you said, it's a rotation. Like you said, I like when it's more consistent. I don't mind bringing in guys sometimes. Right. But maybe even for like a small segment. You turn on that
pregame show, and you have no idea what's going to be there. No.
I like Cole Wright and Cliff Floyd. I think that those guys mesh well together. I like what Cliff does. I would prefer just to see those two guys on personally.
Well, let's have that, 8 out of 10 times instead of, 4 out of 10 times.
100% agree with you. And speaking of Marquee, Jeff Agrest of the Sun-Times reports that Marquee Network will broadcast the majority of Cubs spring training games remotely. Boog and JD will be in Arizona for the first weekend at the end of this month, but the remaining games will be called remotely. Egger goes on to say that while availability of broadcasters is part of the equation, sources say Marquee is looking to cut costs and focus on regular season and shoulder programming. Friend of the pod and Iowa broadcaster Alex Cohen and your teammate on the Score 670, Zach Zaidman, will be calling those spring training games remotely. But that's a little bit nerve-wracking to hear that cutting costs.
Well, it's just, I guess, anywhere you can save a buck. But I mean, okay, like they can't like do a VR, a VRBO out in Phoenix, in Tucson, or wherever, and just have like, we had Score House, right?
Yeah.
We rented a house. Like they can't rent a house with like 5 bedrooms for 6 weeks. I mean, like Boog shot as an example though. Like I know your focus is entirely on the Cubs, and I love that about you. And we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, dipping into a little fun prop bets this weekend for the big game. But yesterday, huge college basketball weekend, and arguably, and we could have this conversation. You will disagree with what I'm about to say. The greatest rivalry in all of sports occurred last night. They play at least 2 times every year. That's Duke, North Carolina. Great rivalry. Boog Shambi, was part of that broadcast. He was on a game. He was on a big college basketball game this past weekend. He might not have been in that game. Maybe he was on Kansas. Actually, I think he was on the Kansas game. Kansas and Houston. Regardless, Boog Shambi is a big part of the 4-letter network's college basketball coverage. He's still doing 4-letter network Sunday Night Baseball work as well, right? So, I mean, if I had to guess, Boog probably has a place out in the desert somewhere. Right? I don't understand what the extra cost is. I guess if the guy's out there, you got to pay to feed him as well, and the meal money. I mean, or is it more because the cameras still have to be there. If you're calling it remotely, you still got to pay for the camera person. Still got to pay for the video replay person. You got to pay for all that stuff. I mean, I just wonder. I mean, I'd love to know, like, does that mean they're going to have more people in the marquee broadcast during the regular season and, propping that up, or are they just looking to save money, period?
That's a good question. And
I mean, Dustin, it is spring training. It's not the end of the world. It's just a sad state of affairs for the business.
Yeah, but to me, it is kind of because that was my joy of Marquee. A guy like me can sit there. I love watching spring training games. People may think I'm nuts because of, but here you get to see these prospects. That's why I have Marquee. That's why the second Crane Kenny announced it, I was 100. I called Comcast. I'm not kidding you, probably 100 times, because remember, it wasn't originally on Comcast.
Yeah, it's back and forth, and who has it?
I'm going to call and cancel my order.
Right, what streaming service has it? Which one didn't? Yeah,
but this is what I wanted. I want spring training games. I love the fact that I can get minor league games. And Dustin, how about this? Keep in mind that Pat Hughes is getting older, right? And he doesn't go out to the desert much. But wouldn't you want to kind of get the guys that you have in the system, whether it's Sam Wiederhoff from Myrtle Beach, or BK and Max from South Bend, or you have Mick Gillespie, or even Alex Cohen, who's doing some games. But these are your future of whoever may be the broadcaster. Wouldn't you want to get them more experience?
Yep. But again, I guess the question is experience live at the ballpark or experience back here in town, through the power of the media that we have now. It's frustrating. I get it. But I mean, I think you're not going to here's my pushback. Like, you're not going to not tune in because they're not there. You're going to tune in regardless. So
but my experience as a fan, and I got to hear, and I know Jason Benetti was on the Score talking about this, and I know Boog and other people are talking about this, because they did this in 2020, and it's just not the same. You are basically like winging it, and you have to follow the camera operators much like we do. They're not there to see what's happening.
You're watching the game on television and then describing to us what you're seeing as well as what we're seeing. And then it's kind of like, hey, like the next thing will be, they'll just have like a color analyst on for television, and they won't even have a play-by-play guy, right? Because you don't, especially in baseball, do you really need the play-by-play guy? I can see what's happening. I can see the graphic. It's a 3-2 pitch. and then the color analyst will tell me whether they agreed with the 3-2 pitch or not, right? I mean, sometimes I wonder if it's dangerously going that route for baseball.
Well, we're going to keep our fingers crossed. Like you said, we're going to watch, but we love all the broadcasters that we have.
Absolutely.
And we would
They're all
love them
great.
to have every
No problem.
opportunity.
Yep. Absolutely right. You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. Rest easy, Otis. This is season 3. It's episode 11. Don't forget to listen, download, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. And let's be nice and leave a 5-star review. Crawly, when we were last recording, we got word of the passing of an important figure in the Cubs organization, Tom Otis Hellman. You had a chance to interview the Tribune's baseball writer, the baseball Bigfoot, if you will, Paul Sullivan, on the impact Otis had on the Cubs organization.
Joining me now on the Fly the W podcast, we are happy to have back our old friend Paul Sullivan of the Chicago Tribune. How you doing this offseason, Sully?
Doing great. How are you, Crawly?
Yeah, doing good. Like I said, getting ready for spring training. It's right around the corner. Pitchers and catchers report now in 10 days, but who's counting? Sully, I wish I was having you on to talk about happier news, but sadly, the Cubs family lost an important member as clubhouse manager Tom Otis Hellman passed away unexpectedly last week at the age of 67. How surprised were you when you heard that news?
Terribly shocking news. Very sad. Really, one of the all-timers in the Cubs organization. I've known him, since he got there in the 80s. And the really, really sad part is he was, he was going to retire really soon. This was possibly his last spring training. So, just a sad way to go, and just sorry to see it happen, and condolences to his wife, Mary, and all the family.
Now, Sully, you have been in many locker rooms over the year. Can you tell the listeners what the role of a clubhouse manager is and why it's so important?
Well, there's many people that work in a clubhouse, but the main manager, his responsibilities are varied, but basically he's in charge of the equipment and the uniforms, getting the equipment from city to city, making sure the uniforms are white, clean, different jerseys, especially now with so many different jerseys on a different day. He basically picks out which uniforms they're wearing, puts it out in their lockers, even assigns uniform numbers for players that, maybe they want a certain number, but, it's already somebody else's number and they can't take it. Just stuff like that. And Otis, Tom, and we always call him Otis. I don't know. I can't even think of him as Tom, but Otis always had various roles with the Cubs. He was cooking stuff in the little kitchen for a long time until they expanded the clubhouse and had professional chefs in there and stuff. He served as a bat boy, as I said in my article, a couple times to turn around the team's luck. He was a bodyguard for Steve Traxel, stood in front of his locker and told the reporters, get away, he's not talking, it's just fun stuff like that. Just a great guy. And it's just a shame he took over for Yosh Kawano years ago. Everyone remembers Yosh from his, decades of service with the Cubs. And he kind of turned it over a few years ago and became an emeritus clubhouse guy. But he was still always around, especially home games. And just a great guy. You never saw him in a bad mood. And, dealing with professional athletes is not an easy thing, especially after games that they, don't perform well in. But he was always the kind of guy that would, get the players up. And he was always the first one in the dugout to high five them when they win. And it's just an incredible guy.
Now, he starts his career as the assistant clubhouse manager for the Cincinnati Reds, and that's in the 70s. That's Big Red Machine.
Yeah.
That had to have been absolutely crazy. And then he
Yeah.
comes to the Cubs in 1983 and as the visiting clubhouse manager. And he just made such an impression on so many people. And as you know, Sully, players move from place to place. So sometimes he would meet them as visitors. And then later on, when he moved over, like you said, to the home clubhouse, they would already have a relationship. But John Lieber, he posted this the other day. He said, making my many trips into Wrigley Field as a visiting player, I'll never forget him telling us as we walked into the visiting clubhouse, how's my favorite team? He had a way of connecting with players or whoever he came in contact with in the lives he might have touched over his 50 plus years in baseball. That's what's made him special. And you kind of mentioned that Yosh Kawano, legend, his fishing hat in the Hall of Fame, right?
Oh, of course.
What kind of very different personalities between Yosh and Otis, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yosh was kind of a curmudgeonly sort, and it was his clubhouse, and you dealt by his rules. Otis was more laissez-faire. He was he understood that it was the players' clubhouse, and he was just working there. But he made everyone feel at home. Always took the guys out on fishing trips, stuff like that. He also catered the clubhouse too, so he had a good relationship with a lot of the local restaurants and bars that would provide food for the Cubs post-game meals. So he knew just about everybody, and everyone in the organization knew him. And obviously, you're going through hundreds of players in a couple of years span with all the waivers and call-ups and all that kind of stuff. So he was always very busy, but never too busy to have a chat with a reporter like me and Bruce Levine, some of the other veterans. Just totally respected, and gosh, I don't know what they're going to do to celebrate him, but I hope it should be something big.
Yeah, and you mentioned his cooking a couple times, and it's funny in your article you said Ryan Dempster credited the Cubs' 14-game win streak to Otis's cooking, and the fact that he wanted to bring him on the road.
Yeah.
Lou Piniella, pointed out, as
the caviar.
The caviar, right? I mean,
Otis catered the clubhouse with caviar one day, and Lou was just apoplectic in a good way. He was laughing, but it was crazy. The team was so bad, and Lou was like, wow, and just imagine if we were any good, we'd get a French chef in here. So I'm not trying to say Otis was a great cook or anything, but it was mostly burgers and sandwiches and stuff. But if you're a player and you need something quick, he was the guy.
And you also mentioned the fishing, how much he loved fishing, and that he would take players out on the road to all the good fishing spots. And, Terry Mulholland, and you mentioned Carlos Zambrano. Mm-hmm. Z was one of the first ones I saw on social media, kind of posted a picture of Otis, on the boat, saying how much he cared of him and how much he loved him. And I, when we think about Big Z, sometimes you think about, that fiery Toro personality, but, a guy like Otis just really kind of touched a lot of players. And I just would have loved to have been on that fishing boat, seeing what that was like,
Oh yeah. I mean, Big Z catching a marlin or something, that would have been something. Big Z did have a soft side. He just didn't like to show it too much. We saw it in the clubhouse, and I just really love running into him nowadays whenever he comes to the ballpark, because we had some epic feuds, epic fights, and now we just laugh about him. But Terry Mulholland, I think, was probably one of his closest friends as a player. I'm just speculating here, but they were always together, and Terry was a real man of the people. I don't know if you ever met him, but mm-hmm. just a great guy himself. So yeah, I mean, Otis was equal opportunity. There was no one that he wouldn't help out, and I don't remember anyone that never got mad at him or got in a fight with him, and that's pretty rare in a clubhouse setting.
Now, among the honors he received, he was selected to accompany Major League Baseball All-Star squad that traveled to Japan following the 2004 season. And then in 2016, he was named the Clubhouse Manager of the Year by his peers. And he got a ring from the Clubhouse Managers Association. And so, I mean, just here's him receiving the CMA award, the Clubhouse Managers Association award. And this is a ring. And if you bumped into Otis and out at a local establishment, and when you talk about a man of the people, there's certain people, Paul, you and I, know that they're always around, you know what I mean? That, just kind of in the neighborhood, if you know what you're looking for. And he would let people look at the ring, and it's a beautiful ring. Yeah. As far as it goes, I mean, he was recognized by MLB and his peers for just the fantastic work that he did. And when I look at some of these, people, this is, everybody, like you said, from Terry Mulholland, here's John Lester, right?
Yeah.
Otis was as loyal and dedicated as the day is long. He had a welcoming demeanor and a big heart. He was funny. He was kind. He was my friend, and I'm going to miss him. You had, everybody for Sean Marshall, selfless, caring, put others before yourself kind of person. And then even kind of the younger players, after each win, and this is Ian Happ, after each win, Otis would be waiting at the entrance of the locker room to high five every player and coach. He was a legend of the game and will be missed deeply. So when you see these, it's from the players. It was really coming from the heart.
Oh, definitely. Because he's with those guys all the time, and he sees them in good times and bad times. And all those guys that you just mentioned are the kind of people that, they're not too snooty to make friends with someone that's, lower, not lower, but, classified as a lower job in the organization. Some players, I've seen players that wouldn't talk to anyone other than other players before, but those guys are not like that. And they treated Otis like an equal. Obviously, Otis lived and died with the Cubs. In his years, he wanted them to win, but he was realistic. When they would blow it, he would like a Cubs fan. He would say, "Oh, same old Cubs," but he wanted to hang on. He wanted to last long enough, I know, in his job to get that ring, and I was so glad he finally got one. And I think he probably considered, like, that's it for me. He was in his 60s by then, early 60s, or that the end of the line was coming. But he kept delaying it because I think he just loved his job, and he's a people person. He lived near the ballpark. He had a good off season. He was a Bengals season ticket holder, so he would drive to Cincy, where he was from, and go to Bengals games all the time. I know he's really excited about that team when they went to the Super Bowl a couple years ago. So, just it's so sad, the timing of it. It's always sad when someone passes away early, but just the timing. You just wish he could have enjoyed retirement for a few years.
Now, you write about one of the most memorable experiences in June of 2003. Sammy Sosa is at the plate and his bat explodes and cork goes flying all over the field. He's ejected. Now, what happens after he gets ejected?
Well, Major League Baseball, obviously watching this with great interest, and sent some investigators to the clubhouse to confiscate Sammy's bats to make sure that this was an isolated incident, or whether maybe he was corking all of his bats. And now Otis would never talk about this, but the story went that they gave the Cubs a 10-minute warning. Okay, we're sending guys down to your clubhouse. So, hint, hint. And sure enough, by the time the guys did get into the clubhouse and got all of Sammy's bats, they didn't find any that had cork in them, amazingly. So he still got suspended and everything for the one corked bat, but it could have been much worse for him. So somebody saved him. We don't know if it was Otis or, maybe a combination of Otis and Bud Selig, but definitely something happened where they were able to kind of hush the whole thing.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm sitting there and I see the just like I couldn't imagine Eddie Vedder sitting there with Tom Hellman, stuff like that, just like you said, just friends with everybody.
Oh yeah, Eddie loved him. Yeah, they were close
and
friends.
When you take a look, I think the statement from Mr. Ricketts says it all. I'm saddened by this loss. I can't think of another person more dedicated to this team and organization than Otis. He embodied the definition of caretaker, looking after countless players, coaches, and staff that called our clubhouse home through his 41 seasons. He will forever be remembered as a beloved member of our family. Paul, like I said, you've spent a lot of time getting to know Otis for so many years. And, I think that that's a fitting tribute. And I agree with you. I'm sure the Cubs are going to do something special to recognize Otis in all his years of service for the Cubs.
Oh, definitely. I'm sure there'll be some kind of memorial this season. And really, he'll be in the Cubs Hall of Fame. I don't know if it'll be next year or whenever, but it definitely deserves a spot there. I don't know, maybe name the clubhouse after him. I don't know how that works. Maybe it's already named after Yosh. I'm not really sure. There's no plaque that I've ever seen, but yeah, just a great guy. It was nice that the Ricketts acknowledged him that way, and I know that Tom loved him too, and Laura. So, it's just a shocking thing. I'm still trying to get over it, and a lot of his friends feel the same way. It was kind of, something you just never would have expected. And I was actually looking forward to seeing him in spring training because he had always told me that, at the end of his career, he would have a sit down with me, and I would do a big, interview with him on his career. But he wouldn't do it until then. And I thought he was going to do it last year, and then he said, "Nah, Sully, let's wait till spring training and see how I feel then." And so I'll never get to do that. But I was just, I'm thankful for the time I did get to spend with him and talk to him. And I'm sure a lot of the Cubs employees, players, managers, everyone felt the same way that I did.
Well, Sully, I appreciate you jumping on and giving us your thoughts and remembrances. And it's just a great article that you did in the Chicago Tribune. It really touches on all of these things, and people should check it out. Where can our listeners, they can read your work in the Chicago Tribune. Where are you at on the socials?
At PW Sullivan on Twitter, whatever Twitter is called these days, and on Threads and on Instagram. And I think that's it. I might be on, I have a Facebook page, official Paul Sullivan page, but they don't really let us do articles as much as they used to on Facebook. So I don't know if it's mostly just pictures and stuff, but yeah, I'm all over the place. Just Google me.
Well, Sully, I look forward to seeing you out in Mesa, and when we're there, we'll have a drink and toast Otis when we're there.
Okay, Crawly, thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it. And, for all the Cub fans that didn't get a chance to know him, I hope you get hope you read up and follow, I'm sure, of the memorials and whatever happens, because he certainly was someone that is deserving of your time.
Thank you again, Sully.
Thanks.
This is segment 3 of the Fly the W670 podcast. It is also season 3. It's episode 11, Rest Easy Otis. Don't forget, listen, download, subscribe, leave that 5-star review for the Fly the W podcast. Crawly, great job there with Paul Sullivan. And you broke a little bit of news a few weeks ago about Sammy Sosa making a return to our fine city.
Yep, he's going to be doing an autograph signing in the Chicago Sports Spectacular. And we talked to Kevin Schwartz of Schwartz Sports and the Spectacular. Dustin, I want all our listeners to be ready because pre-sale tickets are on sale Monday morning. So when you're listening to this, get ready because those tickets are going on sale and they are going to sell out. We're happy to have on Kevin Schwartz of Schwartz Sports and also partner with the Chicago Sports Spectacular. Kevin, how are you?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Hey, no time, man. No problem. It's that time of year. spring show for the Sports Spectacular is going to be held on March 15th through the 17th. But Kevin, the important date to keep in mind is this Monday, February 5th. Pre-sale tickets for the show begin at 9 a.m. And with this amazing lineups you guys have put together so far, it would be wise to get your tickets early. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, especially for some of the headliners that we're going to have. Some of them do have limited autographs per day. And then also we go by number order. So the earlier you get your ticket, the higher number you'll get, and the sooner you'll get in line.
Well, let's talk about the lineup, because, that's what everybody's excited, and you take a look at some of these headliners here. You got Mike Tyson, you got Hulk Hogan, you got Ric Flair. How about Mark Grace for all you Cub fans out there? And for the Southside brethren, Jermaine Dye, 2005 World Series MVP. And you know what? That's all good and exciting, Kevin. But the biggest name, I would say the biggest get as far as autograph shows are concerned in I don't know how many years, Sammy Sosa makes his triumphant return to Chicago. And the world found out when you guys dropped your video on the Facebook, and this is what Sammy Sosa had to say.
This is Sammy Sosa. I'm coming to Chicago. Looking forward to see you at the Chicago Sports Spectacular on March 16, 17. Hope to see you there. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Oh, my God. People went nuts, Kevin. And, here's the thing, Kevin, is that this is not, you're not the first person to try to get Sammy to come back and do a public. How did you pull this off? How did you reel the big fish in? Let me know, please.
Well, Sammy is someone that we've been going after for several years now. And, the offer that we had to him, and, for him, I think the timing's right for him to come back. And I think he misses the fans of Chicago and the city as much as we'd probably miss seeing him around.
Yeah, and I think it was a big deal because they had mentioned that his name was on the ballot for the Hall of Fame, for the Cubs Hall of Fame. So like you said, I think the timing is right. And for people that have been waiting to get those Sosa autographs to see Sammy, this has got to be his first public appearance in Chicago. And I don't even know how long. What would you say? Got to be 20 years.
I mean, I've been in the industry for 23 years now, and I've never seen him do a public. I know we announced it as his first public, at least since he was with the Cubs. I know people were saying he might have done some small thing his rookie year or second year while he was still on the South Side. But it's going to probably be around 30 years since he's done a public autograph appearance where he can meet and greet with the fans.
Wow. And so that is just got to be unreal. But, obviously with a guy like Sosa, it's going to be just, there's so much to do. And you guys have this amazing VIP event. Sosa's going to be there all weekend. If people are wondering, there were some questions originally. Was he going to be there Saturday, Sunday? He is going to be with the Chicago Sports Spectacular Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Why don't you tell us, Kevin, a little bit about this VIP event on Friday?
So yeah, on Friday we are doing a VIP dinner with Sosa. There are 25 spots available to the public. It's going to be in Rosemont, where the show is. We're located at Rosemont Stevens Convention Center. It's going to be across the street at Gibson's. And there'll be a prefix menu with it. Along with, you also get an autographed Sammy Sosa bat. And then he'll take pictures with those that are there, and have conversations with them while they eat dinner. It is one ticket per person. And the tickets are $19.98.
Okay, so it's $19.98 per person, so roughly about $2,000. And so you're going to have dinner at Gibson's, which is just phenomenal. Alcohol is not included. You get the autographed Sosa bat, and then there's going to be a Q&A with Sammy, when you talk about that. And then not only that, that's going to include a VIP package for 3-day admission, front of the line for the rest of the weekend. So that has got to be, I know you've done it before, those VIP dinners. I think it was with Dennis Rodman. If my mind serves correct and stuff. I know you've done them in the past, right?
Yeah, we did one with Rodman about a year ago, 9 months ago. And it was great. We had, I think that one was 25 people as well. We basically set up 3 different tables of 8, and the player goes around to each table throughout the night and meets everyone, talks to everyone, and you got to have a real conversation with them as well. It's not just like when you go through the autograph line and it's real quick and you get a minute with them, and then the next person comes up. The fans actually got time to ask him questions, have a good time. They were buying him beers and stuff like that. So it's a little more intimate of a setting.
And the fun thing about that is the guys kind of, I've been to intimate settings with other players, and they let their guards down a little bit. They're not, you know what I mean? And they're able to kind of talk just freely. And that's the best thing, is the stories, the behind the scenes stories that they tell.
Yeah. I know when I've done stuff with players, you do get some of those, stories that they don't even release to the public or the media. And plus you get to see them in a different light as a real person and get that fan experience that most people dream of.
Well, if that maybe is not going to be your thing on Friday night, Sammy will be available on Saturday, and the photo ops start at 2 p.m. And the one thing I would recommend, if you've never kind of done a photo op, and Kevin, you know exactly where I'm going with this, get there early. Don't come up at 2 o'clock thinking, because I'm sure with Sosa you'd be fine, but in general with the photo ops, once these guys are done and there's no one else to take a photo, then they go signing, and then it's a real pain to try to get them back. So you always want to get into the photo op line early. And that starts at roughly about 2 p.m. But if I'm going for Sammy and I want the photo op, I'm going to get there at 1 p.m. to be honest with you.
So, we always recommend anyone that has the photo ops to get there about 15 minutes before the start time with Sosa, because it'll be a little bit bigger, maybe about 20 minutes. We have PA system, so we'll announce when he's does start as well as everyone else. But Sosa's going to have a bigger line, and once again, ordering early gets you a better, higher spot in line, and you'd get in and out faster, and not have to wait for everyone to go.
Right. So if you're going down there, and if this is your first Chicago Sports Spectacular, there are individual prices for different things. So if you want a card signed from Sosa, it's going to be $150. Flats up to $16.20. Tickets or baseballs are $200. Caps, minis, gloves, helmets, oversized flats or bobbleheads are $250. Bats and jerseys are $300. 500 home run game used items and artwork is $400. And then inscriptions, there's only 3 max. You can have personalization or 98 NL MVP, 609 home runs, 7-time All-Star, Slammin' Sammy, 3-time 60 home run, 66 home run, Go Cubs Go. Those are all $79 each, and you get a max of 3. And if you are doing the photo ops, $199 for the photo op. And there's a limit to 300 autographs per day. So once Sammy hits 300, his day's done, but he's also signing on Sunday.
Yeah, we're going to have 300 available for Saturday and 300 available for Sunday. It's very possible that both days are going to sell out. And sometimes on these, bigger headliners, we do sell out weeks before the show.
Right. And if you're going on Saturday and you're kind of coming up with a game plan, Mark Grace is also going to be there. I don't know if we got a time yet for Grace. Obviously he was with the, teammate of Sammy's, Cub Hall of Fame class of 2023. He's signing, and for Grace, it's $55 for flats and balls, $75 all other items, $25 inscriptions, and $55 photo ops. So I think this is the first time he's come to the Spectacular since getting in the Hall of Fame, correct? For the Cubs Hall of Fame.
Yes, this will be his first appearance since making the Cubs Hall of Fame. It's always great to have Gracie around. He's gets a little tougher because he still works in baseball, but yeah, he happened to have that day free and was able to make the appearance at the show this year.
Wonderful. And then also on Saturday, if you didn't get your fill of Sammy Sosa and his teammates, how about Moises Alou? All right. He's going $59 flats to 16 by 20 and balls, $69 all other items, $25 inscriptions, $59 photo ops. So, that might be a great opportunity to get some side of team signed piece from the 2003 team that just had their 20th anniversary relatively recently. So to think about that, when I think about Alou and so obviously Sosa, but Grace, like you said, timing wise, he works for the D-backs and stuff like that. These are 3 guys that don't come all the time. Some guys you're going to see over and over again, especially with Sosa, these are guys that are going to be rare to kind of get again. So I'm just saying, if you got an opportunity, get out to Rosemont, correct?
Yeah, and actually, I have one more Cub that we just confirmed today. That'll be there. Will be Derek Lee.
Oh my God! Breaking news: D. Lee also going to be there. Another teammate of Sammy Sosa. So unbelievable. I mean, that is just fantastic. And another guy that's not really in town that much. So, like we talked about earlier, you can buy tickets the day of the event. But to me, the smart bet, especially with the interest and the media attention with Sosa's return, the presale is so important. It's your best opportunity not to get shut out. It starts at 9 a.m. And so what you do, if you've never done this before, at 9 a.m., you go on the Chicago Sports Spectacular website. Be patient. Don't freak out. It sometimes takes a couple of minutes to start populating, right? And when it goes on sale, you'll see the images with each player, and it'll say photo. It'll say it'll say, bat, whatever you want to get autographed, and you click on it, you put it in the cart. And then while you're in that digital waiting room, while you're doing that, the pre-sale, the smartest thing to do is to get your admission tickets for the weekend, because then once the spectacular comes, you have a special line, you can get in really easy. And, it just makes life a whole lot easier rather than buying your tickets the day of.
Yeah, we definitely agree with that. Right. Get it all out of the way, and you can go right to Wilco, get everything you need at that time, and you're ready to go for the show. And the last thing we want to do is have people stuck in line we want them in the show, having a good time, seeing all the cool exhibitors stuff out there, as well as going and meeting the autograph guests.
So if you are an adult, for a one-day pass, $15, children 10 and below are $10, children 5 and below are free. There's a sneak peek, $25 Friday only. The weekend 3-day pass is $49. So that includes a sneak peek at $25 value. But with a guy like Sosa in the house, I would say the smart bet is the VIP. That's front of the line access. So when they call VIPs, that's the first thing that gets called. You get in early. There's a VIP pavilion. It really, to me, is kind of the smart bet. It's $150, but if you think about it, it's like $50 for 3 days. So it's $100 just to kind of save you aggravation and to get, again, the nice VIP pavilion, which you guys have started recently.
Yeah, the VIP package, they have great value to them. You get, especially if you're doing the autograph lines, you get the first in line bracelets. We call the VIPs before even ticket number one. So that works great. You get a goodie bag of a whole bunch of stuff from our different sponsors, as well as giveaways, autographed 8x10s, stuff like that. And you get autographs of the VIP guests that we will have, which will be announced shortly as well. And then we also have our VIP lounge that you'd have access to, which is a place to go sit down and relax.
Right. And so this is a picture of me from the last Chicago Sports Spectacular. And the thing that people don't understand is that there are, you said, over 300 vendors. And it has a little bit of everything. You can buy stuff like paintings. This is a Jansky painting that, people are out there. They're selling paintings to get signed. I always laugh at this. Tyson's going to be there. I'm a kid of the 80s. And so Mike Tyson's Punch Out was kind of a big thing. And I love this picture of all the different characters from the game. And it's signed by Tyson. That's awesome. Kevin, I got to show you something I picked up at the last Chicago Sports Spectacular. I've been searching for this for 15 years probably. This is a Phantom 1945 pennant for the Chicago Cubs. It says Chicago Cubs World Series 1945 champions. And it has a lot of great names on there. Stan Hack, Andy Pafko, Bill Nicholson, Peanut Lowry, Phil Cavaretta, Claude Passau, Charlie Grimm was the manager. But I mean, that is a rare find. And so that's the thing. You're going to find things like those old school nodders, programs, and of course, baseball cards are huge.
Yeah, we are putting a lot of time and work to try and get a great core of vendors out there. That way we get a whole bunch of everything. Like you said, you can find rare pennants. We have artwork out there. We have framing. We have people who accept framing. We'll have on-site authentication. submission by JSA, PSA, and Beckett, as well as GSC grading will be on there. We have top auction houses, Pristine Auction and Golden Auction will be in attendance. And then you have, a lot of different companies that sell cards and autograph stuff. I always hear about a Jordan rookie that sells big on the floor. I think in November it was anything Ohtani was a big deal.
I can imagine. And for me, one of my things, and I kind of got into this a little bit late, so I'm playing a little bit of catch up. This is, you have an opportunity to get those photo ops. And if you ever get the photo op, I want to say you guys will print it off. You have to buy this you don't just get it. But if you get a free $10 ticket, you guys will print off the photo, and then you just go back in line and get the player to sign it. Now you have to have the ticket for the signature as well. Separate things, but that's been kind of one of my jams lately. It's really fun to do the Dawson and or whatever player comes up, whether it's Sammy or Derek Lee, getting the photo and then turning around and having them sign it. So that one's a fun one. I love that. That's why I love the photo ops. And the last show you guys had, you had Schwarber out there, and that was a massive line too for Schwarber.
Yeah, Schwarber, we had to start him real early because he was on a time crunch because he had another obligation. And the fans were out there and they're ready to go, and they were very excited to see him, as well as all the other 2016 Cubs. We've always had really good traction with the fans wanting everybody back from those teams. Any championship team in Chicago, the fans just fall in love with them.
Yeah, you had Soler as well, and who knows, maybe he'll still end up as a Cub. But the main thing I want to tell people is that when you're in line, it's weird. You're kind of sitting in line, you're waiting. And then all of a sudden everything kind of happens really quick. You want to kind of be prepared, know what you want to get signed, know which marker you want them to sign it in, whether it's one that you bring or one that they have at the table. You guys always have plenty of markers at the table, however you do it, but just be kind of really prepared. And I always say, hand the photo first, tell them where you want to sign it, then hand the pen, because sometimes it kind of gets automatic. They grab and they start signing. And if you're particular about where you want them to sign, take your time, give them the photo, then give them the marker, as opposed to that's just a little tip I got for everybody, The VIP room, which is available if you get the VIP package or the 3-day package, is something you guys just started recently, right?
Yeah, that was something that we started in November. Something we've been talking to the convention center about finding room that wasn't on cement floor like the rest of the show, that we can kind of create into a VIP kind of getaway. Our VIPs are at the show pretty much all day, all 3 days. Most of them are there as early as 1-2 o'clock starting on Friday. They do the sneak peek. To let them have a place where they can go and sit, and a lot of them actually kind of readjust all their stuff because they end up with so much stuff. That way they can go and put it down and get it all in order and not be in the way of people on the main show. But also there were chairs in there. There were some drinks and snacks in there as well as tables and stuff. And I know people are even doing trades in there. So.
Yep. And so this is where I was in there in the lounge, and they had food over there. They had games. You kind of just kick back, nice chairs. There was the Vienna beef and the drinks, and it was just a lot. It was really nice. Like you said, if you're going to be going for 2 or 3 days, for me, this is the way I usually do it, is I go on Friday for my authentication. I go in, drop off all my stuff to get authenticated. And Friday is the day that I start kind of really perusing the grounds. What do we got? What's for sale? What am I interested in? And then, I usually kind of try to buy everything and bring it home on Friday. And then Saturday and Sunday is the autograph day. But like you said, if you're all 3 days, it's nice to have a little place to duck in. Now, if you're coming just for one day, Dr. Scholl's feet inserts, shoe inserts will absolutely save you, because it is cement floors and it is a long day. And if you're getting a little long in the tooth like we are, Kevin, it's not a bad idea. You know what I mean?
No, and we've got great feedback from the VIP lounge that people really like, just any place to kind of go sit down. And go, like I said, people end up with bags and bags of stuff, and that way they're able to kind of combine them into fewer bags. And sometimes there's a wait of, if Sammy's going at, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the next guy might be at noon. So you might, or previously at noon, or next time might be at 4 o'clock. So you might have a little bit of time. So it gives you a chance to relax. And yeah, it can become a long day, especially a long weekend if you're there all 3 days.
Right. And so if you are interested in the VIP package, it's 150. Like I said, there's only 250 available. So you want to kind of keep an eye out on that. To me, like I said, it's especially depending on what the weekend's going to look like for you. Sometimes it just really is the best bet. And then I would say, one final tip I'd have is don't forget, if this is going to be your first time at the Spectacular, you do that self-parking, just make sure you bring your ticket with you, put it in your back pocket or your wallet or somewhere. And then that way, when you leave, you can prepay to exit. It just makes life a lot easier. But Kevin, I got to tell you, I am so impressed with the lineup for this show. And now you tell me Derek Lee's coming. I mean, that's just going to be absolutely phenomenal. And I think, you guys do it best, and you keep bringing in better and better guests, and it keeps getting bigger and bigger. So I'm guaranteeing Sosa is going to be a sellout. I'm guaranteeing there's going to be news cameras around there. The Chicago Sports Spectacular, one of the best shows even before this ever happened. And this spring, you guys have it in the spring, the summer, and the fall, but this is the spring show, March 15th to the 17th. It is going to be exciting, Kevin. Now, I want to also thank you for jumping on here. And if anybody has any questions, as far as, you can always contact Kevin, or you can contact Chicago Sports Spectacular, and the website has everything you really need to know. Kevin, is there any place that they can contact you other than the phone or the email? Is there any socials you have?
So we have our Facebook page, which is Chicago Sports Spectacular. But all the information is on our website at chicagosportspectacular.com. And there's also a contact us if you have any questions.
All right, Kevin, thank you for taking some time out of your busy day, and best of luck for you at the Chicago Sports Spectacular. Listeners, if you have any questions and you just want to hit me up, you can always message me at Crawly's Cubs or flythew670@gmail.com. Thanks again, Kevin, for jumping on.
Thanks for having me. We hope to see everyone March 15th through 17th at Chicago Sports Spectacular.
Well, that's a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, review, and subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Follow on all the socials. That's Facebook. It's Instagram. Of course, we're on Twitter and flythew670@gmail.com. And now you can watch us. That's right, on YouTube by subscribing to the 670 The Score YouTube channel. Crawly, have a great week. We'll get back with everybody late in the week, and we'll be just a couple of sleeps away from big game number 58 out in Las Vegas, and maybe we'll have some Bellinger news to report on in between now and then.
And if we do, we'll have an emergency pod ready for you. Go Cubs! Hey guys, it's Crawly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Cubs!